Family avoided me 5 years and all the attention was on my golden sister. But then I won a lottery ticket for $100,000, and parents came to my door and said, "Hey dear son." I never thought my life would change so drastically because of one decision. It was my sister Emily's wedding day 5 years ago, a huge event she had been planning for over a year. My parents had poured money into making it perfect: the flowers, the venue, the 3-tiered cake. Emily had always been the golden child, the center of our parents' world, and frankly, I was okay with that. She thrived on their attention, their support, their constant affirmation. Me? I was used to being the afterthought. I learned to take care of myself and didn't mind. I liked my independence. But I didn't realize how deep this dynamic ran until that day. You see, my girlfriend, now my wife, Claire, and I had been together for 3 years at that point. I knew she was the one, and when the time came to propose, I wanted to make it memorable. I guess I wasn't thinking clearly because I picked Emily's wedding day. I know. Rookie mistake. But hear me out, it wasn't like I hijacked the whole event. It was during the reception, after the speeches and the first dance. Guests were mingling, the music was playing, and Claire and I had stepped out into the garden to get some air. It was just us, no crowd, no spectacle. I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. She said yes, of course, and we were ecstatic. The problem? Someone saw us. A family friend took a picture, posted it online, and within minutes the whole reception knew. Suddenly, we were bombarded with congratulations and people clinking glasses in our honor. It wasn't intentional, but the spotlight shifted, and Emily noticed. She was furious. I'll never forget the way she stormed up to us, pulled me aside and hissed, "You just had to make this about you, didn't you?" The fallout was immediate. My parents took her side, saying I had ruined her perfect day. They ignored the fact that it was a private moment that only became public because of that photo. Emily, of course, milked it for all it was worth, painting me as selfish and attention-seeking. Then there was the wedding itself. I'd refused to contribute financially to it earlier in the year, which had already caused tension. My sister expected me to contribute because, as she put it, family helps family. But Claire and I were saving for a house, and I didn't see why I should foot the bill for her dream wedding. This decision only added fuel to the fire. After the wedding, my parents stopped talking to me. No birthday calls, no visits, nothing. Emily made sure of that, constantly reminding them of how I'd betrayed them. It was almost comical how easily they bought into her narrative. But honestly, I didn't fight it. In a strange way, I felt relieved. Without them around, Claire and I could finally breathe. No more guilt, no more feeling like I was never good enough. It stung, sure, but I told myself we were better off without her drama. For 5 years I kept my distance. She never reached out, and neither did I. Claire and I built a life together, quiet and simple. I thought that was the end of it. But then a $5 scratch-off ticket changed everything. It happened one random Tuesday. I was driving home from work and stopped at the gas station to fill up the car. As I waited in line to pay, I noticed the scratch tickets on the cash register. I'm not a big lottery guy, but something about that moment felt right. So on a whim, I grabbed a $5 ticket and stuffed it in my pocket. I didn't even scratch it until later that night. Claire was cooking dinner and I was sitting at the kitchen table with nothing to do. I pulled out the ticket, grabbed a coin, and started scratching. At first I thought it was a joke. 3 matching numbers followed by the words $100,000. I stared at it, waiting for my brain to catch up. I even Googled the ticket to make sure I wasn't reading it wrong. But it was real. I had just won $100 grand. I showed it to Claire, and for a minute we just sat there in shock. Then we both started laughing, like full-on, can't-breathe laughter. It wasn't the kind of money that would make us millionaires, but it was enough to change our lives. Enough to pay off debts, maybe take a trip, and just have some breathing room. The next day, I went to the lottery office to verify my winnings and start the claiming process. 2 weeks later, the check arrived, And let me tell you, seeing 6 figures in your name does something to you. It felt like a new chapter, like all the years of struggling and being rejected by my family had led up to this moment. What I didn't expect was how quickly the news would spread. Apparently, the lottery win was announced in a local news article, complete with my name and photo, thanks to a form I'd signed at the lottery office. Emily was the first to know. She must have been scrolling through Facebook or something, because she texted me the very next day. Not to say congratulations, of course. Just a casual, "Hey, heard you won some money. That's amazing." I didn't reply. But 2 weeks later, there was a knock at my door. It was my parents. Now, to put this in perspective, my parents hadn't shown up at my house in 5 years. Not for birthdays, not for holidays, not even when Claire and I sent a Christmas card one year as a peace offering. And yet there they were, standing on my front porch with big smiles on their faces. "Hello, son," my dad said, his arms outstretched as if we were long-lost pals. Behind him, my mom chimed in. "We missed you so much." It was like a bad sitcom. For a moment, I just stood there, trying to process the audacity. 5 years of silence, and now suddenly they were going to play happy family? I could already feel the strings attached to their visit. I should have slammed the door in their faces. Instead, I smiled politely and said, "Come in." Big mistake. I let them in, mostly out of morbid curiosity. Claire was out running errands, which was probably for the best. My parents walked into the living room like they owned the place, commenting on how beautiful everything was and how proud they were of me. It was surreal to hear them suddenly acting like the doting parents they'd never been. We sat down, and after a bit of forced small talk, they got down to business. My father cleared his throat and said, "We heard about the lottery win. Congratulations, son. You've made us very proud." "Thank you," I said, leaning back in my chair. I wanted to see where this was going. "Well," my mother jumped in, "we're so happy for you. And we were thinking, since you're in such a good position now, maybe you could help us out a little." There it was. I kept my expression neutral. "Help you out how?" "Oh, nothing too big," my dad said, waving it off like it was no big deal. "It's just, things have been a little tight lately. Your mom and I were hoping you could take care of some things. The property taxes, maybe. And, we wanted to renovate the kitchen, but we just haven't had the funds. About $20,000. My mother added, as if that was pocket change. I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. "You want me to give you $20,000? After not speaking to me for 5 years?" My father's smile faltered. "Now, son, let's not dwell on the past. We're family, and family helps each other." "Right," I said, leaning forward. "Like how you helped me out when you ignored me for half a decade? Or how you sided with Emily when she decided I was the villain of her wedding?" My mother's face flushed. "We apologized for that dash." "When?" I interrupted. Because I must have missed it. There was a long, awkward pause. Then my dad said, "We're trying to make it up now. Isn't that important?" It was almost impressive the way they spun it. As if I was the unreasonable one for pointing out their years of neglect. I could feel my temper rising, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I stood up and said, "I'll tell you what. I'll be happy to pay your garbage bill. That's about as much help as you're going to get from me." My dad's jaw dropped. My mom opened her mouth to protest, but I held up my hand. "This conversation is over," I said. "You can stay for coffee if you want, but if you're here for the money, you can leave now." To my surprise, they stayed. But the tone changed. They spent the next hour trying to reason with me, their voices soft and calm, as if talking to a stubborn child. They talked about how they'd always done their best for me, how family was more important than petty grudges, how they were truly sorry for everything. I didn't buy it. Finally, I told them I had things to do and walked them to the door. As they left, my mother turned to me and said, "We just want to make things right, son. Please think about it." I closed the door and locked it. That should have been the end of it. But of course, with my parents and Emily it was never that simple. I didn't hear from my parents for a few days after that awkward visit. I figured they'd gotten the hint and given up. But then came the texts. First it was my mom sending reminders about how much they loved me and how we shouldn't let money come between family. My dad followed up with long-winded messages about opportunities to rebuild our relationship. I ignored them. Then Emily got involved. One night, as Claire and I were having dinner, my phone buzzed with a text from her. I hadn't heard from Emily since her wedding day, and when I saw her name pop up, I was immediately nervous. It read, "Hey big bro. Heard about your win. Congratulations. We should get together sometime, maybe talk about some ways you can help out the family. Let me know when you're free. Red heart." I stared at the screen, stunned. Claire leaned over to read it, and we both burst out laughing. It was so blatantly fake, as if she hadn't spent years poisoning our parents against me. But it didn't stop there. Over the next few days, Emily sent more texts. First, she mentioned how she always dreamed of starting her own business and how a little help from family can go a long way. Then she casually mentioned some debt she was struggling with: credit cards, student loans, even a car payment. I didn't respond to any of it. But Emily wasn't one to take silence for an answer. The next Saturday, Claire and I were at home packing boxes. More on that in a minute, when there was a loud knock at the door. I opened it to find Emily standing there, holding a tray of cupcakes and grinning like we were best friends. "Hey, big brother," she said, pushing past me into the house. "Thought I'd stop by and surprise you." I stood there stunned as she made herself at home, putting the cupcakes on the counter and gushing about how long it had been since she'd visited. She hadn't even set foot in our house, not when we moved in, not when we had her over for dinner, nothing. Yet here she was, acting like we were inseparable. Claire came out of the bedroom, saw Emily, and froze. "What's going on?" "Oh, I just thought I'd stop by and say hi," Emily chirped. "And, catch up." The audacity was almost impressive. Claire shot me a look that said, "Deal with it." So I crossed my arms and said, "Emily, what are you really doing here?" Her smile faltered for a split second before recovering. "Can't a sister visit her brother?" I didn't move. "You had 5 years to visit. You didn't. So what do you want?" She sighed and dropped the act. "Fine. Look, I'm in a bit of a bind right now. I've got some bills piling up, and with your big win, I thought maybe you could help me out. Nothing crazy, just $10,000 or so to get me back on track." I laughed and shook my head. "You've got some nerve, Emily. You got our parents to cut me off for 5 years, and now you think I owe you money?" Her face hardened. "That's not fair. I didn't make them do anything. They were just mad at you for what you did at my wedding." "Oh, you mean proposing to my wife?" "Yeah, we've been over that. Get out." But Emily wasn't done. She leaned in and lowered her voice. "You really want to play this game? Because I have dirt on you, and I'm not afraid to use it." That caught me off guard. "What dirt?" She grinned. "Oh, nothing too serious. Just some questionable choices you made back in the day. I'm sure Mom and Dad would like to hear about them. And maybe Claire, too." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was trying to blackmail me for what, I didn't even know. But I wasn't going to let her think she had the upper hand. "Go ahead," I said, crossing my arms. "Tell whoever you want whatever you want. But you won't get a dime from me." Emily's smirk disappeared, replaced by pure frustration. "You're going to regret this," she said, grabbing her purse and storming out. Claire and I watched her go, stunned at how low she was willing to go. That night, Claire proposed something drastic. "Let's sell the house and move," she said. "Start over somewhere else. We've talked about it before, and now we actually have the money to do it." At first I hesitated. I loved our home, and moving felt like letting my family win. But the more we talked about it, the more it made sense. The lottery money wasn't life-changing, but it was enough to give us some freedom. A chance to leave all the drama behind. The next day we put the house on the market. Of course, that didn't stop my parents and Emily from finding new ways to harass us. The decision to sell the house was surprisingly easy. Claire and I both agreed that it was time to start over, and frankly, the money gave us the flexibility to do so. The way we saw it, the house was just a place it wasn't worth being tied down if it meant keeping my parents and Emily in our orbit. We put it on the market the next week. And while we priced it slightly below market value to sell quickly, the offers started rolling in. It felt like a weight was lifting, one box at a time. Of course, Emily found out about the move almost immediately. Someone in the family must have mentioned it to her, because one morning I woke up to a series of texts. "So I hear you're selling your house? Moving away? What, are you trying to run away from your responsibilities now? You think you're so much better than everyone else just because you got lucky? News flash, your little payday doesn't make you special. I wouldn't get too comfortable if I were you. You never know what might come out when people start talking." Classic Emily. A mix of thinly veiled threats and desperate attempts to make herself feel superior. Claire read the messages over my shoulder and laughed. "Does she think this will scare us? She's grasping at straws." "Straws are probably all she's got left," I said. Emily's problem was that she didn't have anything on me. We grew up in the same house, but we barely spoke. I was either working or doing my own thing, and she was busy playing queen of the family, sucking up to mom and dad and scheming to get them to buy her the next shiny thing she wanted. Her threats didn't bother me because she didn't know me. She never bothered to. The next few days were blissfully quiet. The house went under contract, and we started making plans to move out of state. Claire had always dreamed of living somewhere warmer, so we picked a city in the south where we didn't know a soul. But just when I thought we were free, Emily showed up one last time. It was a Saturday afternoon. Claire and I were sorting through a pile of old paperwork when we heard a car door slam outside. I peeked through the window and saw Emily marching up the driveway, her phone in one hand and a piece of paper in the other. "Not again," I muttered. Claire rolled her eyes. "Let's just get this done." I opened the door before she could knock. "What do you want, Emily?" She shoved the paper at me. "This. I thought you should see it." It was a printout of a half-baked post on a neighborhood gossip forum. Someone had shared the news that our house was for sale, speculating that we'd come into some money, and were leaving town because of family drama. It was just vague nonsense, but Emily acted like she'd uncovered a scandal. "You really want to air our dirty laundry?" she demanded, crossing her arms. "Emily," I said, pinching the bridge of my nose, "you know I don't care what anyone thinks, right? Write whatever you want. Start a blog. Write a novel. It won't change anything." Her face flushed. "You're such a..." "Careful," Claire said, coming up beside me. "This is still our house, and we don't have to let you stand here and insult us." Emily huffed, clearly realizing she was out of moves. "Fine. Then run away. But don't come crawling back when you realize you can't escape your past." With that, she turned and stomped back to her car. Claire and I stood there for a moment, watching her drive away. "Is it bad that I almost feel sorry for her?" Claire asked. "Not really," I said. "But I'm not going to waste any more energy on her. She's made her bed." And that was that. We never heard from Emily again, except for the occasional snide comment through family channels. The day we closed on the house, I felt like I could finally breathe. Claire and I packed up our car, said goodbye to the place that had held so much drama, and headed south. It wasn't $1 million lottery win, but it was enough to give us a clean slate, and that was worth more than any amount of money. Selling the house and moving was the best decision we ever made. Once we closed the door on our old life, literally and figuratively, everything started to fall into place. For the first time in years, there was no drama. No surprise visits, no passive-aggressive texts, no thinly veiled threats. Emily must have realized her antics weren't working, and my parents stopped trying to guilt me when they found out I wasn't budging. After we moved, Claire and I rented a small apartment while we figured out our next steps. The first few months were surreal, waking up in a new city, surrounded by new faces, with no baggage to weigh us down. It felt like a fresh start in every way. The lottery money wasn't enough to retire on, but it was more than enough to change our lives. We used some of it to pay off our debts and put some away for savings. The rest? We invested in ourselves. Claire had always dreamed of starting a small bakery, and I was itching to quit my 9-to-5 job. So we took the plunge together. With the money as a cushion, we rented a small storefront in the heart of the city and opened a cozy little cafe. Claire did the baking, and I did the business, managing inventory, marketing, and keeping the place running smoothly. To our surprise, business took off. People loved the homemade feel of Claire's pastries, and word spread quickly. Within a year, we had a steady stream of loyal customers, and for the first time in a long time, we felt stable. It was during a quiet evening at the cafe, after the last customer had left, that Claire brought it up. "You know," she said, wiping down the counter, "we've never really talked about having kids." I looked at her and realized that she was right. For so long, we'd been so focused on surviving, on dealing with family drama, paying bills, and just getting through each day, that the idea of starting a family had always felt out of reach. But now, things were different. We had a home, a business, stability. "I think we're ready," I said. Claire smiled, and for the first time in years, I allowed myself to imagine what that future might look like. A little one running around the cafe, helping us bake cookies or playing with toys in the corner while we worked. It was a vision I hadn't dared to think about before, but now it felt possible. It's been a year since that conversation, and a lot has happened. We bought a house not far from the cafe, a cozy little place with a big backyard. Claire and I are finally in a place where we can talk about names, nursery colors, and all the little details that come with starting a family. As for my parents and Emily, they'd been radio silent for over a year now. I guess they realized their games weren't working and finally gave up. The last I heard, Emily was still living off my parents, clinging to them as usual, and they were struggling to keep her afloat. It's sad in a way, but it's not my problem anymore. Claire and I don't look back much these days. We're too busy focusing on what's ahead: our business, our home, and hopefully a baby in the near future. That $5 scratch-off ticket didn't just give us money. It gave us freedom, stability, and the chance to build the life we always wanted. And for that, I'll always be grateful. It's funny how life works. Claire and I used to joke that things could never go our way, and now here we are, living the life we always dreamed of. The cafe is thriving and the community has embraced us like family. Most days I find Claire in the kitchen, humming as she decorates cupcakes or kneads dough, and I can't help but smile. It's a simple life, but it's ours. And now we're about to take the next step. Claire is pregnant. We found out a few weeks ago and I still can't quite believe it. She surprised me with a little onesie that said, "Future Baker," and I swear I've never been happier. As for my family, they're a distant memory now. Every once in a while I'll get a text from some random cousin or hear about some drama involving Emily, but it doesn't bother me anymore. All that matters now is what's ahead. A baby, a family of our own, and a life filled with love and laughter. It's a long way from where we started, but maybe that's the best part. We didn't just get lucky, we made this life together. And honestly, it's sweeter than anything money can buy.